In this video, I'm going to show you how to adjust the factory suspension in a KLR 650. One of the complaints leveled at this beautiful KLR 650 is that the factory suspension is too soft. It bottoms out too easily, it doesn't handle road undulations or some serious single track off-roading particularly well, or even some unmaintained gravel roads. Now I'd like to pose a question. Is the bike undersprung, or are we Aussies just a bit bigger boned than the type of riders this bike was designed for? Either way, knowing how to adjust the factory suspension can go a long way to making your ride smoother, safer, and more enjoyable. And that's what we're going to do. We're going to kick things off up here with the front forks. Moving to the front of the KLR, you're going to need... Uh-oh, the front is not adjustable. You get what you get, and you don't get upset. Okay, so that just leaves us with the rear. Despite not giving us any adjustability on the front, Kawasaki has been pretty good about giving us both preload and rebound damping on the rear shock. Preload is adjustable from the left-hand side of the bike, while the damping is adjustable on the right. So let's talk about preload. Preload is the name of the force that the spring is applying, pushing outward on the shock. To compress the shock when you hit a bump, you're going to need more force to overcome that preload force. More preload means there's more force pushing outward on the shock. You're going to get a slightly higher ride height. You're going to have less sag. The ride is going to be firmer. You're going to have less bottoming out because you need much more force to be able to compress that shock absorber. And the end result is you end up with better handling. Less preload is, of course, the opposite. Rebound is the rate at which your shock absorber returns to full extension. Decreasing your rebound dampening allows the shock to extend faster. Your suspension is going to feel softer and more supple. Increasing rebound damping makes the shock extend more slowly, feeling stiffer and more supportive. If your rebound damping is too slow, your bike won't be ready for the next bump. If it's too fast, your bike's going to become a pogo stick. The main message here is to try different settings, give it a ride, and find out what you like. Okay, now everyone's going to be different when it comes to adjusting the suspension on their bikes. It's going to come down to how you plan on using the bike and also your own physical dimensions. For me, I found that the factory suspension settings were far too soft. I felt like the bike was really wallowing through the bump. We'd sort of hit the bump and then come up, and then there'd be a little aftershock and things like that. Once I got off-road, I found that I was bottoming the suspension out pretty easily. Now, you don't even need a lot of tools to do this. In fact, Kawasaki has made this so simple, they've even put the tools in the factory toolkit. Let's look at how to read this shock absorber. On the left side of the bike, take a look at the shock. There's black lines on a yellow background, and you'll see the numbers 1 and 5. The standard setting for your KLR 650 is 2. 1 means there's less force on the shock, and 5 means there's more. To adjust the preload, simply take your socket, fit it on the bolt, and turn it clockwise to go higher or counterclockwise to go lower. Now, one important point is don't go too far in either direction. If you go lower than 1 and higher than 5, you're going to get a sudden, rapid movement of the shock absorber, which can damage the internals. Moving over to the right-hand side of the bike and ducking down here to look at the bottom of the shock absorber, you're going to find a small flathead screwdriver adjuster. Simply turn it clockwise to increase rebound dampening or counterclockwise to decrease. All right, now we're done adjusting the suspension. Let's go hit some tracks and see how it feels. With my suspension adjusted to suit myself and the riding style, I was keen to try it in all different environments. Throwing my leg over the first time, I noticed that I needed to swing my leg just a little higher, but when I sat on the seat, there was less sag. I smiled inside my helmet, anticipating a firmer, sportier ride. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm definitely not saying that tuning the rear suspension turns the KLR into a sport bike. However, in the stop-go traffic, the KLR felt more responsive to my inputs and felt a bit better under brakes. This feeling was reinforced when putting the KLR through some corners on backcountry roads. I definitely felt like the bike was listening to me more than it was listening to the road. I felt more confident heading into the corners and more in control in the apex. I was comfortable adding a few more kilometers per hour through the corners too. It was a far more fun experience for sure. From there, it was out onto some twin track for off-road riding. The firmer suspension handled the bumps, lumps, holes and logs far better than before. The bottom outs were fewer and further between, and my bash plate was much happier for the adjustments. In short, I felt that the stability of the KLR had increased. I still wasn't brave enough to start trying to jump the big girl though, but I really wanted to. Coming down the motorway, I was happy to find that some of my biggest concerns were resolved. The biggest thing I didn't like about riding the KLR on the expressway was the wallowing in the undulations of the concrete. The bike had felt far too sloppy. One undulation felt like 3, similar to aftershocks after an earthquake. Thankfully, that was much reduced with the firmer ride, and heading down the motorway wasn't such a chore. So there you have it. That is how to adjust the factory suspension KLR 650. It's very easy to do, well worth doing. I recommend you head out to your garage right now and get stuck into it. You're gonna really appreciate the difference. So if you've enjoyed this video today, give it a thumbs up, share it with a friend, and make sure you subscribe to keep up to date with all our future content. Now, make sure you let me know in the comments below, what are your settings on your KLR? And that's it for today. So until next time, get out there and live an adventurous life.